Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving into one of the most incredible stories of brotherhood, faith, and having each other's backs in all of religious history. We're heading back to the harsh, unforgiving sands of ancient Egypt. And let me tell you, this was a dark time. The tyrant Pharaoh was ruling with an absolute iron fist. He was enslaving the Israelites and, horrifyingly, even ordering the death of their newborn sons. But in a brief year of mercy where infants were temporarily spared, a child named Harun, who you might know as Aaron in the biblical tradition, was born. He grew up to have this incredibly gentle heart, but also a remarkably powerful, articulate voice. And, as we'll see, he was destined to become the ultimate pillar of support for one of history's mightiest messengers, his younger brother, Musa, or Moses.
So the real core of this story kicks off with a massive, life-changing encounter. Picture Musa standing out there in the valley of Tua, encountering the miraculous burning bush. God gives him what has to be the most terrifying mission imaginable. Go back to Egypt and confront the single most powerful tyrant on the planet. Naturally, Musa immediately feels the crushing weight of this. He knows there's absolutely no way he can do this alone. So he makes this deeply vulnerable, powerful plea to the divine. He says, "Appoint for me a helper from my family, Harun, my brother." I just love that. It's this beautiful realization that even the greatest leaders, literally chosen for divine missions, know their own limits. They know they need a rock-solid support system.
Now, to really understand why Musa specifically needed Harun, we have to look at Musa's own position. The sources tell us Musa held this incredible title, Kalim Allah, which literally means the speaker of God. It's a highly unique theological role because he was the only prophet recorded to converse directly with the divine rather than getting messages through an angel. But carrying that kind of spiritual weight, that comes with immense pressure. Confronting an arrogant, ruthless king required a very specific kind of diplomacy, and Musa was totally self-aware. He knew his own passionate, intense nature needed some serious balancing out.
And this is exactly where the dynamic between the two brothers shines. Musa specifically asked for Harun because he knew his brother was incredibly eloquent and steady. Well, God actually answers this prayer, and not just by making Harun an assistant, God elevates Harun to the status of a prophet as well. So Harun steps into this role as the calm, highly articulate voice that can bridge the massive gap between divine revelation and a stubborn earthly tyrant. He was literally the perfect counterweight to Musa's fiery intensity. Two totally distinct personalities coming together to form one unbreakable front.
Okay, we really need to set the stakes here to appreciate the danger these two brothers were walking into. They weren't just going to lobby some misguided politician. They were taking on Pharaoh. This guy's tyranny was completely off the charts. I mean, he literally declared himself Lord Most High and demanded to be worshipped as a god. He fractured society, violently enslaved the Israelites, and treated them like literal work animals. And, most chillingly, he systematically slaughtered newborn boys just to protect his grip on power. So walking right into his grand halls, that took an unimaginable level of bravery.
So the brothers deliver their message. They show miracles, like Musa's staff turning into a serpent. Pharaoh tries to show them up by bringing in his greatest sorcerers. But when those sorcerers see the real divine truth and drop to their knees in belief, Pharaoh absolutely loses it. Total, explosive meltdown. He goes into a wild rage and starts threatening brutal, horrific violence. He promises to cut off the hands and feet of anyone who believes, even threatening to crucify them on the trunks of palm trees. And through all of this intense psychological terror and physical danger, Harun doesn't flinch. He stands right there, shoulder to shoulder with Musa, like an unshakable shield.
Ultimately, that unified front pays off. After surviving those devastating plagues, the Israelites make their miraculous escape. They cross the parted sea, and Pharaoh's army gets wiped out. Incredible victory, right? But the story doesn't just end with their freedom. Now they're out in the harsh desert wilderness, and here, Musa is called away by God to Mount Sinai to receive the revelation of the Torah. He leaves for a very specific amount of time, exactly 40 nights, and right before he heads up the mountain, he turns to his trusted brother Harun, places him in charge of the entire community, and tells him to keep the peace and keep things on track.
Let's just put this timeline into perspective for a second, because the psychology here is wild. Day 1, they are breaking free from generations of brutal slavery. Night 1, they are literally walking through a parted ocean. It's just a fast-paced sequence of mind-bending miracles. But fast forward to day 40. Musa has been gone just a little bit longer than they expected. And what happens? Panic. Old habits creep back in. Their faith, which was clearly still pretty fragile from living surrounded by Egyptian idols all those years, starts to crack. And on day 41, all that anxiety blows up into the ultimate theological crisis.
They build a golden calf. Now, this is where it gets super interesting, because there's a huge divergence in how different religious traditions view Harun's involvement here. If you look at the biblical account in Exodus, Aaron is actually depicted as caving to the crowd. It says he helps them fashion the golden calf out of their jewelry. But flip over to the Quranic account, and it is a completely different story. The Quran completely clears Harun's name. It explicitly points the finger at a man named Samiri, saying he was the one who crafted the idol. Meanwhile, Harun fought against this idolatry with absolutely everything he had, staying completely faithful to God.
Let's zoom in on that Quranic account for a second. Harun is in the middle of this terrifying rebellion, and he is not just sitting back letting it happen. He uses that famous eloquence of his to frantically warn his people. He's shouting out, "O my people, you have been tempted by the thing. Follow me and obey what I command." He is fighting this deception with total spiritual clarity, warning them that they are inviting divine anger. But the crowd, they're totally seduced by the shiny golden idol. They just ignore his voice of reason entirely, and stubbornly insist they're going to keep worshiping it until Musa gets back.
Well, Musa does get back. And when he does, the truth prevails, and the cleanup is swift and absolute. Musa confronts Samiri right away and exiles him. Then he turns his sights on this false god. That cursed golden calf is completely destroyed. It's burned down to ashes, and those ashes are just chucked straight into the sea. It's a powerful statement. The idol is literally reduced to nothing, exposing it to everyone as just a weak, useless piece of metal that couldn't speak, couldn't act, and certainly couldn't guide anyone.
But let's rewind for just a second. Before the idol gets destroyed, think about what happened the literal second Musa came down that mountain. Put yourself in his shoes. He's returning, carrying these sacred divine tablets, and he starts hearing pagan partying echoing through the camp. His own people, the people he literally just pulled out of slavery, are bowing down to a hunk of gold. The emotional fallout was catastrophic. His immediate reaction? Overwhelming heartbreak and pure, explosive anger. And in that chaotic moment, that anger was pointed right at his brother.
The confrontation between them is incredibly intense. Musa comes in furious, totally blaming Harun for letting this happen. But notice what Harun does here. He doesn't let his ego take over. He doesn't scream back. He de-escalates. He speaks with incredible humility, explaining that the people completely rebelled, overpowered him, and honestly almost killed him when he tried to stop them. And as Musa looks at his brother, really listens to him, he sees Harun's utter vulnerability and the absolute purity of his intentions. In an instant, all that fiery rage just melts away into deep brotherly mercy.
Realizing the sheer weight of what they're both carrying, Musa turns to the heavens and makes this incredibly moving, timeless prayer. "O my Lord, forgive me and my brother, and admit us to your mercy." It's just a stunning moment of reconciliation. It washes away all the tension, all the misunderstanding, and cements this bond that simply cannot be broken. It's proof that even in the middle of a massive crisis, true brotherhood and true support can weather literally any storm if you just have a little humility and forgiveness.
Looking back at his life, Harun's legacy is just profound. He lived a life of absolute, unwavering devotion, and historical texts don't just remember him as Musa's sidekick, he was a vital, crucial leader in his own right. He was specifically known for being the more forbearing, gentle, and lenient of the two. He really is the ultimate symbol of brotherhood. He shows us the true beauty of taking your own unique gifts, like a calm demeanor and a silver tongue, and using them entirely for the truth. He was the steady, grounding rhythm that made Musa's massive mission possible.
So this isn't just some dusty history lesson, right? It's a blueprint for how we connect with each other. We all face massive, daunting tasks in our lives, and honestly, none of us are meant to carry those burdens completely alone. So I want to ask you, who is the Harun in your life? Who is that steady voice of support when you're up against your own personal pharaohs? And maybe even more importantly, whose mission are you supporting right now? Thank you so much for joining this explainer, and keep exploring.